Hey Latchkey kids and driving mutants, I'm TheLadyShasha, mistress of the snark, connoisseur of the gore, and your hostess with the mostest, and I just rewatched Halloween Kills. This starts right where Halloween 2018 left off, and it takes place later the same night. Then we get a flashback to the first night in 1978. Is that officer that just got shot the director of The Wolf of Snow Hollow? Then it jumps back forward to 2018. I must admit that I'm a little disappointed that they couldn't get Paul Rudd back to play Tommy Doyle. Anthony Michael Hall is a great actor, but I just didn't buy him as Tommy Doyle. Anyway, he messes up a Halloween talent show to freak everyone out by telling the story of Michael Myers. Meanwhile, Laurie, her daughter, and granddaughter, who have just survived Michael, are headed to the hospital. Now here's the last bit of info that I'm going to give to you before I get into the review. We get treated to a great scene, which if you've seen the trailer, you know what I'm talking about, of Michael taking out the firemen. I didn't hear anyone complain about this the way they complain about Candyman and those policemen. Hate to break it to you, but Michael Myers doesn't give a damn about cops either. Anyway, it's a great scene. It had lots of carnage and the practical effects looked great. This is definitely the most violent Michael Myers kills have been since probably Halloween 2. Let's talk about the townspeople. I enjoyed the different townspeople that were featured. The elderly couple, the gay couple, the sheriff, who by the way made me think of this character from Jason Goes to Hell. It's probably because of that hat. Kyle Richards is back reprising her role as Lindsay and she did pretty well. There also were these badass kids that made for some pretty entertaining scenes. New drinking game. Take a sip every time someone says evil dies tonight.
Evil dies tonight. Evil dies tonight. Evil dies tonight. All right, evil dies tonight. Evil dies tonight. But now it needs to die. It needs to die. And I'm the one that needs to kill it.
There's some really fun scenes in this. Like when Michael had all those people hemmed up in the car. I love the execution of that. The way he took most of them out was pretty cool. One death was kind of silly, but it was forgivable because it was entertaining. I did kind of feel like the momentum of the movie sort of ground to a halt when it went back to the hospital where Laurie was. And I didn't care for the big hospital set piece they did. I felt that was really hokey. I get where they were going for, but it just didn't work for me. I'd like to get into some spoilers now, so just jump to this time code here to skip that part. Spoiler warning, you have been warned. Dr. Loomis makes an appearance in this. It looks like it was done via practical effects and a little bit of CGI. I loved it. I don't know how they did the voice. Maybe they were able to find a voice actor that sounded just like Donald Pleasance, but it was spot on. I loved when Michael was testing knives and an actual corpse to determine which one he liked the feel of best. It's so Michael. There's some silly elements in this that I couldn't ignore, like why did Tommy Doyle keep thinking he could take on Michael Myers with just a baseball bat? I just thought that was silly. And I did peep some callbacks to previous Halloweens, like for example, those 3 badass kids I told you about. Did you notice that their masks look somewhat like silver shamrock masks? Like I said earlier about the hospital set piece, I really disliked the Evil Dies Tonight mob hospital scene. I felt like the movie was doing so well before that. It's not that on its own it's a bad scene. And It would have worked really well in any other horror movie except this one. Upon watching this a second time, I really didn't think I was going to enjoy it the same way I did the first, but I actually kind of enjoyed it more because now I know what parts to look forward to. It's not the perfect Halloween movie. It's not the worst, but it's not the best. It's just okay. I enjoyed it for what it was. With that said, I will be back in just a moment to talk to you about Halloween Ends. If I entertained you, made you smile, or helped you pass the time, please consider supporting this channel so that I can do that more. Horror channels often get suppressed and demonetized, but you can help in 3 ways: by pledging a monthly contribution on Patreon, sending a one-time tip using your preferred financial app, or you could help for free by liking and commenting for the algorithm, and most importantly, sharing this video on your social media. Thank you so much. Welcome back. Let's get into Halloween Ends. This opens with babysitter Corey, who has to babysit a badass rich kid named Jeremy. He's supposed to be 21, but he doesn't look a day under 35 years old. If the actor's under 35, dude, moisturize or something. Corey is a quiet, unassuming young man who plans to go to engineering school. But something happens that I won't spoil. This was a great opening for a horror movie, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say that it didn't exactly feel like a Halloween movie. Then we suddenly jump back into Laurie Strode's continuing story with her granddaughter. And am I a bad person for not liking Laurie's daughter nor her granddaughter? I just don't care for them as characters. They're not as bad as the Laurie Strode from the Rob Zombie Halloweens, but they still aren't particularly likable. At the same time, we catch up with babysitter Corey, who now works at a junkyard instead of going to college for engineering. Now, here's where you're either going to agree with me or disagree with me. I had an inkling that this was going to be a good movie as soon as I saw a random hobo. That was a staple of 70s and 80s films, was the random hobo. Also, bonus cool points for having a character read tarot cards and not misinterpreting the death card. Corey is the most accident-prone person, plus he has the worst luck. The actor playing Corey kind of reminds me a little bit of Dick York. A young Dick York. He reminds me of 2 other people, but I'll get into that when I get into the spoiler section of this video. There are some really fun kills in this. Again, I will talk more in depth about them when I get into the spoiler section. David Gordon Green is the director of this, as he was for the previous 2, I believe, and he did a really good job in my opinion. If I'm not mistaken, he's also the director that has been given the keys to remake The Exorcist. I disagree with anyone remaking The Exorcist, but this could be put in worse hands. This movie went in a different direction while keeping some of the core elements of Halloween, much like the Rob Zombie Halloween and Halloween 2 did. Some people aren't going to like that. I personally was not a fan of Rob Zombie's Halloween, but for different reasons. And it's okay not to like a thing. Like when I did my review of the entire Halloween series, check that out if you haven't already. When I talked about Rob Zombie's Halloweens, I did talk about the good things and the bad things about them and why they aren't my particular cup of tea. What I am seeing that's very divisive with this Halloween is people really putting 20 on 10 and crying like, ow, my hurts. And I really want y'all to
stop the blood clot crying.
Anyways, back to the Rob Zombie thing. If you want me to elaborate more on that, definitely check out my reviews of the Rob Zombie Halloweens 1 and 2. This departure from the same old was better in my opinion than even Halloween Kills. It was an enjoyable movie for me, a person who grew up on Halloween, a person who the first musical score I can remember is Halloween. When I first saw the runtime on this, I thought it might be too long, but it didn't feel that way as I watched it. It had some really nice fatalities. They became more and more gruesome as the movie went along, and the practical effects looked great. I had a good time watching this from beginning to end. At the time of this recording, Halloween Ends was available on Peacock. I thought it was a great follow-up to Halloween Kills. But like I always say, don't take my word for it. Watch it for yourself. Just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it, and just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. What did you think of Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends? Let me know in the comments. Unless you want to stay tuned for another spoiler section. Spoiler alert, you have been warned. First of all, I laughed my ass off when that little badass Jeremy called Corey, what did he say? Ugly ass boy babysitter. I don't know why this director or this writer has a thing for smart mouth little kids, but it's funny. Maybe I have the same type of enjoyment of seeing little kids be smart mouth, but that made me laugh. The band Geeks are the Bullies now. That's a flip. And I can say band geek because I technically was one. I was a majorette, not the cool, sexy kind from HBCU, the baton twirling kind. We kind of were leaders of the geeks when you think about it, since we marched in front of the band. So anyways, when did they become the bullies? Editing Shasha here. I just wanted to complete my thought about the bullying. When I first saw the movie, I thought it was kind of extreme to have the kids bully Corey outside of the convenience store about him not buying them beer. But then I saw these news clips and it all made sense.
One of the busiest intersections in downtown Toronto, only steps away from where a man was stabbed and died. Now police confirm 8 girls are charged with second-degree murder. 3 of them being 13, 3 of them being 14, and 2 of them being 16 years of age. Police say on Saturday night, the same group of girls was involved in a separate altercation and shortly after midnight stabbed a 59-year-old man. He died in hospital.
Tonight, a 16-year-old headed to jail for first-degree murder. Pinellas Park police say on Monday, Jason Olivo Smith gave a man some money to buy beer for him from a convenience store, but that man, John Ash, rode off on his bicycle with Smith's money. Detectives say Smith chased him down and shot him in the back of the head.
Well, it happened at Tony's Market behind me last evening. An employee there who's seen the video of the actual attack, which has not yet been released, estimates these teenage killers could be as young as 14. We do have the aftermath of what happened. It's not pretty. Too gruesome for TV, we have blurred his bloody, battered head. It happened outside Tony's Market Thursday night. The victim, who worked there, tried to stop 4 teens from stealing beer. They apparently beat him with a scooter.
But my point is, they bullied Corey outside the Quickie Mart, and I'm going to call them Gen Z gang gang. They were some super interesting characters, but they got messed up at a junkyard, and I enjoyed that. That sequence was so good. My favorite kill is definitely the radio DJ. He got his jaw literally jacked, and then he got his tongue cut off. By the way, did they sound like they were playing a Muzak version of Don't Fear the Reaper in the grocery store when Laurie was talking to old dude that used to be a police officer? One thing that they kept on telegraphing was that car grinder thing. I mean, by the second time they showed that car grinder, I was like, I know what they're going to use that for by the end of this movie. They shouldn't have telegraphed that one so heavily. The other 2 people that Corey reminded me of were Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer, and Arnie from Christine. He was like a combination of those 2 people, but only if Michael Myers would be like his Christine. But at the same time, his relationship with his mother was giving Carrie White tease mixed with a little bit of Norman Bates. When Corey's mother smacked him and then kissed him on the lips, I was like, WTF. Honestly, you could tell Corey was going to be a psychopath by all that Yoo-hoo chocolate milk type drink he kept on drinking. That was diabolical. There is one completely unintentionally funny scene that I don't think was meant to be funny, but I laughed my ass off at. When Laurie had Michael hemmed up on the center island in the kitchen, she had each of his hands pinned to the chopping block and in one of his legs pinned with the refrigerator, and he was kicking his other leg at her still. Like,
I'll get you, bitch.
This is another movie to add to what I'm calling the Joe Bob Briggs Effect. That's when a director has the ability to make a regular theatrical release but chooses to make a drive-in classic instead, specifically for the purpose of being featured on Joe Bob Briggs' The Last Drive-In. James Wan did it with *Malignant*, Zach Cregger did it with *Barbarian*, and now David Gordon Green has done it complete with a cameo by Darcy the Mail Girl. Some people are not going to like that Michael is not the only killer in this movie, and they sort of hinted that this would be a departure from the series by using the same exact font that was used in Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. Each slasher series gets a movie like this. Elm Street had Freddy manipulating Jesse to kill for him. Jason Voorhees had someone impersonate him for Part 5 A New Beginning. And he passed his demon worm from person to person in Jason Goes to Hell. So I guess it was Michael's turn. How you feel about those movies may inform how you feel about this one. I enjoy Nightmare on Elm Street 2. It's one of my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movies. I also enjoy Friday the 13th 5 A New Beginning. Jason Goes to Hell, not so much, except for the gore. It had really great gore in that movie.
It's disgusting. Ugh. I love it.
And it had an iconic stinger that teased Freddy versus Jason that we wouldn't get for another 10 years after that. Anyways, I enjoyed this movie. It may not feel like the most Halloween movie, but it was a good standalone horror movie in my opinion. But like I always say, don't take my word for it. Watch it for yourself. Just because I love something doesn't mean you won't hate it, and just because I hate something doesn't mean you won't love it. At the time of this recording, Halloween Kills was on HBO Max, and Halloween Ends was on Peacock. Have you seen either of these? What do you think about this series? Let me know in the comments. Until next time. Special thank you to my patrons. If you are new here, welcome to my channel. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Reminder to new and returning Latchkey kids, don't forget to follow me on your preferred social media platform and check the community tab on YouTube for some fun extras. By the way, here are some other videos you might like.